Hello. We are going to be talking about vCloud today. So to begin, we currently have three vCloud instances, one in Irvine, California, one in Dallas, Texas, and one in Sterling, Virginia. The URLs for them will be provided, but just for curiosity's sake, one is called SNA01, that's our Irvine vCloud, and the vCloud URL is vcloud.rsportal.net, prefaced by HTTPS. The one for Sterling, Virginia is called IAD01, and that one can be found at IAD01VCD01.rsportal.net. And our Dallas one is at Dallas, DAL01, VCD.rsportal.net. When you, as a customer, will be provided with a URL and login information to get straight to your customer. So let's begin. So once you get logged in and you have your URL straight to your infrastructure environment, what you'll be presented with is this home screen, which will quickly show you your vApps. So what is a vApp? A vApp is a container for virtual machines. Just an easy way to organize your virtual machines. To create a vApp, you have a couple options here. You can create one from the catalog, from an OVF file, build a new one, or import from vSphere. Easiest way to get one created is to build one from scratch. So click on Build New vApp. Go ahead and give it a name. You can give it a description as well. And you're going to go ahead and set this to leases, most likely as never expires, and storage lease as never expire. Your virtual data center should be already created, so you just go ahead and have that preset for you. Go ahead and hit next. So you can have the option to build virtual machines right at the same time as you want to build your vApp, but we can jump into that in a few seconds here. So we're going to leave this one as blank, and we're going to show you the windows just to get you through it, and then we're going to hit finish. So what that'll do is it'll create a new container called name, and it'll be stopped. It'll be stopped because we haven't started it yet. So to go over the vApps, these buttons do exactly what they say and show you what they do. They will start any stopped VM inside of it. They will pause or suspend them if they are running. And they will stop, meaning they will hard power off all virtual machines within that vApp. So for this one, the test one, we can go ahead and start that up. Press the play button, that'll start the vApp, and that'll send a start command to the virtual machines within it. Let's go ahead and move on to creating a virtual machine inside a vApp. So let's go ahead and open up this one called name. And so at the moment, there are no virtual machines there. So we have the option to add a virtual machine or import from vSphere. So we are going to go ahead and click Add Virtual Machine. We're going to go ahead and not look in the organizations catalog. We're going to click on the public catalog, and we're going to look at our virtual machines available. So we have a couple options here. We have 13 virtual machines that we can pick from. Explanation for them is in the name. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to support, but should be pretty simple, straightforward. 2008 R2, 2008 32-bit. We got our net scalars. We got 2008 R2, 2012 R2, and 2016. So let's go ahead and spin up a virtual machine. We'll go ahead and pick up a 2012 R2. So we'll click on Add. We'll go ahead and hit Next. And so what do we want our virtual machine name to be? Let's pick a name. Alright, storage policy is going to be preset. Most likely you have two options, SATA and SSD. Feel free to select either option. Go ahead and hit next. So now you have your virtual machine network adapter. So what would you like the computer name to be once it's created? Go ahead and select our network, or the network that you have available, and the IP address. Do you want to have it pull one from the IP pool? Do you want to set it manually or just have it boot into dhcp? You have either choice. For now, we'll just select dhcp. Then we're going to go ahead and hit next. We're going to leave it in our organization virtual data connection. data center, and we're going to hit next and finish. And so what that'll do is it'll start creating and cloning that virtual machine to place it within that VM. Now, off the window, you have your myCloud navigation bar on the left. You have your vApps, which will get you a quick view into all of them. You have your most recent items, your tests, and your name vApps, and then within them, you can get to your virtual machines. You also can go straight to the virtual machines and ignore your vApps. That'll give you a list nice and easy and show you some information about the NIC, the network adapter that's attached, the IP address, the vApp they're in, the host it sits on in our data center, the SSD policy, and the data store it currently resides in. You can also go to expired items if you had anything expired, if you set your expiration on your vApps, and you also have your logs. Logs which will tell you a good amount of things that were happening to your systems, if somebody started something, created something, all that good stuff. That'll be there. So let's go ahead and go back to test. So like we tested earlier, we started that virtual machine. So what we can do with this virtual machine now that it's powered on is we can look at the console window on it. Just go ahead and click on that. It'll launch the console window here. As you can see, this is a PVS server, so there's no PVS server created, so it doesn't know what it's doing. Basically, it can't talk to any DHCP server and can't get what it wants. So it'll just keep trying and trying indefinitely. So we can go over these icons up here. If you want to change your language, feel free. And these play buttons right here kind of do what they say. So the play button is the power on button. Pause is suspend. We can go ahead and suspend this virtual machine right now to show you what it does. Stop button will power it off, and a reset will restart it pressing the power button. It won't go through the guest OS. And then you have your send control delete icon over here if you want to actually send a control delete. And then you also have your full screen and fit window to guest, and you can do relative mouse pad if you would like. So now that we've suspended that virtual machine, status is still processing that command. While we wait for that, let's go back to our other one. So the other machine has been ordered and it's now ready to go. So what we can do is we can go ahead and right click on it from here or select the power button here. And we can actually go ahead and power it on. To go back to our test one, you'll now see that the machine is suspended. And you have to basically unsuspend it, power it back on to get it working. But it's in limbo at the moment is the best way to say it. So let's go ahead and resume the behavior of that virtual machine. So we just right click on it and click on resume. Go back to our other one, which is currently powering on. And it's still processing that command, so that's perfect. So now that this machine's back powered on, let's go ahead and power it off. So we're going to go ahead and right click on it. We have two options. We could do a hard power off, meaning just literally pull the power plug on it, or we can shut down the guest OS. So we'll be nice here. We'll shut the guest OS down and let it power off. Go back to our other one. We now have it powered on. So let's go ahead and pull the console up. And we'll now see Windows boot. So nothing fancy there. So let's go ahead and close out of that. And now it's back to the Windows login screen as you normally start a Windows machine. So let's go ahead and hard power it off. We'll right click on that and hit power off. And that'll literally just pull the power plug on it and power it right off. So another thing that comes up is how do we move a virtual machine between vApps for organization purposes? So let's go ahead and start both of our vApps. Let's go ahead and start this one. And let's start our other one. One key important fact that we need to have you do if it has not already been done is whenever you do create a vApp, please go ahead and create an owner on it. For the owner, make a technical point of contact as the owner, so most likely yourself. And we'll get to that in a second. But in essence, in order to change the owner on a vApp, you want to go ahead and right click on it and hit change owner. And so we have one account here that we can select, which is something. And we're going to go ahead and hit that, and that'll change the owner to that account. The reason we want this to be changed is for further integration later on, as well as just making it nice and clear about who actually owns that vApp. All right, so now they're running, now they're powered on. So let's go ahead and power them off. And this will power off the vApp as well as the virtual machines inside of it, and they won't be shut down through the guest OS. So it's just pressing the power plug. All right, so let's go ahead and power them both off. All right, so for example, let's say I want to move that 2012 R2 server into our test vApp just for clarification and organization purposes. So let's go into that vApp, and we have two options. We can copy it or move it. So you have either choice. So let's go ahead and move it because we don't want to leave it here. So we'll go ahead and select our vApp that we want to move it to, which will be our test one. Just literally, if you want to change the name, you have the option to, and if you want to change the storage policy as well. You can only move a virtual machine that's been powered off. You have the option to keep the NIC or not, and you can preset that if you would like. You also have the option to change the computer name if you would like as well. So we're going to leave these ones default as our organization virtual data center, and we're going to go ahead and hit finish. And what that'll do is it'll move it between vApps. And you'll get a little progress bar, and it'll just complete that process for you. Usually pretty quick. And then once a virtual machine has been moved out of this vApp, we can go ahead and right click on it and delete it. Once it completes, of course. So let's see. Next item is what we can do and show you is our firewalls. So I want to add some firewall rules to the firewall to get into these virtual machines. I want to enable RDS into it. I want to do SQL servers. I want to do an IIS website. Whatever have it, we want to go ahead and manage that firewall. So in order to get to the firewall, you want to go ahead and select administration. You will want to go ahead and select your virtual data center, which will most likely be already there for you. Go ahead and select that. So now this just gives us another view into the My Cloud view. So you have your vApps, your vApp templates if you have one, anything else added to your instance of vCloud Director. So specifically, we want to get to our edge gateway, our firewall. So what we want to do is we want to highlight that. We want to select this little gear icon and click Edge Gateway Services. But before that, we can show you kind of a little bit about the properties on it. So this will just show you the edge gateway configuration, which is compact. It'll show you the external network configuration that we have internally, and it'll show you the IP address that you have assigned, and it'll also show you the static IP pool if you have one preset. Rates, limits, usually we're pretty much unlimited here, and syslogs are not set. To show you, we can also show you the external IP allocations, which you'll see here. That's your public IP. Then you can also upgrade your configuration and synchronize syslog server settings as well. And if your firewall ever not responds, you have the option to redeploy it. Redeploying it will go ahead and spin up a new virtual machine that will act as your firewall. It'll copy the running config off of this firewall, migrate it over to the new firewall, power it on, and shut this one off and swap them out, and then it'll delete the old one. Usually it takes about 3 to 4 minutes, very quick and seamless, and you obviously will see firewalls or VPN tunnels go down and any firewall rules stop while it does the hot swap, but it's usually pretty quick. So let's go ahead and talk about managing the firewall rules, NAT rules, and VPN tunnels. So we want to go ahead and right click on that or hit the little gear icon and go to Edge Gateway Services. This will then go ahead and pull up the DHCP option, which is the first tab, if you have DHCP enabled on your firewall or not. You can then view the NAT rules. So currently we don't have any, but if we wanted to add a source NAT rule, go ahead and apply it to our external IP. give it the internal IP and the external IP that you want to source. To do your destination at rule, add your destination at rule. So you can also give it a description if you would like. You have your external IP address, what protocol, what do you want to translate that to, and what port do you want to translate that on internally. Your firewall rule. So currently at the moment, you can either enable your firewall or disable and basically open your environment completely to the internet. Not recommended, but it can be done. So most likely it's going to be enabled and your default action is going to be deny. So it's going to deny all traffic unless there's a firewall rule. So then what you want to do is you actually want to define a firewall rule. So you want to click on add. You want to go ahead and give it a name, source port, destination port, protocol, and do you want to allow or deny this, and do you want to log the traffic? Pretty simple, straightforward. Static routes, if you want to enable any static routes between networks, feel free. Go ahead and click on add and apply your network static route. Your VPN tunnel. So to configure a VPN tunnel, you want to go ahead and enable VPN options. Then you want to go ahead and click on add to build a VPN tunnel. So you have a name, you have your description. Most likely it's not going to be a network in this organization, it's going to be a remote network. So you go ahead and select that. So local networks, you'll see your IP address pool here. If you don't, feel free to reach out to support. We can configure that for you. But we can show you how to configure that in a second. So you got your peer network, your local ID, your peer ID, your peer IP, your encryption protocol, and your shared key, as well as your MTU. We can definitely send you an article that references how best to deploy a edge gateway firewall to an external external firewall. There's usually some settings here that is not listed that we can reference in an article to best give you the best practices on that. But usually it's pretty straightforward on that. So we'll go ahead and hit cancel. And load balancing, if we have it enabled, we can load balance things, services, ports, what you name it. Let's go ahead and configure that. I won't necessarily show you right now, but you can definitely configure it. This is pretty much VMware vCloud, so there's all kinds of articles that we can reference from VMware that will apply to this if you want to do any external research on this. All right, so still waiting on that virtual machine to move over. It looks like it cannot because network adapters were added, so that's perfectly fine. So it looks like it did move it over. Perfect. So let's go ahead and delete a virtual machine. So let's go ahead and hit delete. All right, machine has been deleted. We're going to go ahead and delete that vApp. Right click, delete. Perfect. Just giving us an error message about an IP address because we had it set to automatically pull from the IP pool. So there was no IP pool set on this one. So another thing that comes up is I want to add more space to my server. So I want to adjust the server specs. So you can add space to your hard drive while a machine's powered on if one option is set. Otherwise, if you want to add CPU and RAM, you need to power off the machine. So right now, these machines are in a powered off state. So we can go ahead and right click on them and go to properties. In the properties window, you'll get some information about the virtual machine name, the computer name, description. If you want to add memory, go ahead and check this checkbox. Same with CPU. Otherwise, you will have to power them off. If you want to synchronize time to the data host, you can check this checkbox. We normally recommend against it. Make sure we have an NTP server configured somewhere along your network, and you're good to go on time sync. So let's go ahead and go to the hardware section. So here we go. We got our CPUs at the top. So this is a 4x16 server. So if we want to adjust that, we can adjust that down. Just literally select our setting here, total memory as well. So we can go ahead and adjust this. Now, You can immediately type your own. You don't actually have to follow the drop down. So if you want to go to 9, 10, 10 gigs, that's fine. Just feel free to delete that number and type it in. Now for the hard disks, you have one disk 0, which is your primary C drive, and you have your space allocated to it. You can adjust this space. You don't have to follow 256. You can go above it. Just feel free to delete the text in there and enter in what you would like. So for example, if we wanted to go to 50, we can go to 64 really quick just to show you what happens. But once the storage has been allocated, you can't go down. So take note. Then you can do your show network adapter if you want to go ahead and add a NIC. So we're going to go ahead and add this one here just for example. Go ahead and select it, set the static pool, and hit that. And then you also have your guest customization options if you want to enable that. This will allow VMware to configure server settings for you. It'll also allow you to technically do a sysprep, change your SID. It'll allow you to allow local administrator password to be reset and prompt you to change it at next logon. And it can also join your virtual machine to the domain once you input that configuration setting. And you can also run a script if you have a script that you would like to run. Since this machine's not on, there's nothing there. Under guest properties, resource allocation, system alerts, and metadata, just to show you those tabs. So let's go ahead and hit OK to confirm those settings. Because this is a PVS server, that's not going to work. So go ahead and hit OK. And what that'll do is it'll downsize our options of CPU and RAM, and we'll be good. Doesn't like the fact that I have a NIC added, but I haven't given the vApp a network pool. Alright, perfect. Not to worry too much about that. So let's go ahead and talk about snapshots. So we want to go ahead and snapshot a server before we make a major change, such as major software installation or anything like that, in case we want to revert and undo that really quick. So to make a snapshot, you can do it in two steps. You can do it either with the machine powered on or the machine powered off. Usually we recommend to power it off to make a quick snapshot, unless you're 100% need to make a snapshot while the machine's running. So let's go ahead and power on a machine to show you what happens when you do a snapshot when it's on. And we'll go ahead and make a snapshot of a server that's powered off. So to make a snapshot, you're going to go ahead and right click on it and hit create snapshot. These options will be unchecked or grayed out because the machine's not powered on. So we just hit OK. And it looks like it's still doing my configuration change, so I can't actually make a snapshot on it really quick. So let's actually rip out our NIC. So now the machine's powered on, we want to go ahead and right click on it and make a snapshot. So we're going to go ahead and hit a snapshot, and so now we have the options. We can go ahead and snapshot the memory as well as the guest file system. So this will make a snapshot as if the machine's running. So if you had to restore a snapshot, it'll remember that it was previously running with certain memory items snapshotted and saved. We definitely recommend to take a snapshot when you need to quickly make a major change, unless you have a backup and restoration plan or application or software to recover to. So now that you have your snapshot, we're going to see if we can get PVS1 to take a snapshot. Looks like it's doing it. Perfect. So now that this other machine's powered on, we can go ahead and create a snapshot here. We can go ahead and hit OK on that. That'll go ahead and create a snapshot. So there's no indication that you actually do have a snapshot, except for the fact that when you right click on a virtual machine, you'll see the fact that you can revert to one or remove it. So what we can do to remove a snapshot is to right click on it and hit remove. We definitely recommend to keep the snapshot around for about 24 hours. Usually try and keep it smaller than that when need to, because naturally you don't want to leave a snapshot running on a server and then think about it and then have to do a restore a week later. You're going to have a fun time. So now that we have a snapshot on our server, we want to go ahead and right click on it and hit remove to remove that snapshot. Alright, perfect. Snapshot's off. Let's go ahead and power that machine off. We're going to go ahead and shut down the guest OS. So what else? That pretty much covers snapshots. So now that we have this machine here, let's go ahead and delete it, because it's one of our test machines. Let's go back to our vApp. If we want to adjust our VLANs associated with our networks or vApps, we can go ahead and right click on it and go to properties. We can then go to our options here, which are not here. So then we can go to administration, go to our vApp, and go to organization VDC networks. And you have your organization VDC network here. So you can right click on it and go to properties. We'll just show you that. This will be where our gateway is set, our net mask is set. And if you wanted to join future machines to your domain, you can go ahead and set your primary DNS and your secondary DNS, as well as your static IP pool that will be associated with this network. And considering this is a 10.101.1 subnet, we'll go ahead and set that as our IP pool. Except my keyboard's not allowing me to type, and that might come up. So when you can no longer type into your browser, into your view, go ahead and simply refresh your view. Alright, perfect. And now I can start typing. Maybe not. Alright, well, I swear to you, you definitely can type. I must have something blocking that. But alright, so let's move on. So we now have gone over our organization VDC networks, our edge gateways, our vApps, and our virtual machine controls. So how do I add users? How do I gain access to this instance out of this customer? So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and log in, go to administration, and select users under members. So as you can see, you have one user here. You can go ahead and click on add to add another user. Except I can't actually enter it in because it's not taking my text. No problem. So off the option here, you have your username and you can reset the password. You can also reset the password as well. You can enable the account, you can disable the account. Roles, if you want to give them administration roles, you'd most likely want to give them organization administrator. Otherwise, you can give them access, lower access to catalog author, vApp user, and console access only, where they can't actually power on or power off any machine. They can only just get straight to the console. You can go ahead and fill out the information for the context, not necessarily, but you can. And you can also give them a quota if you would like. And you just simply hit OK. So now that we have this account, if we want to disable it or reset the password, you can go here. And you can then restart the password to what you want. Otherwise, you can also adjust their permissions, their roles. So let's go ahead and disable this account. Just right click on it and hit disable. Immediately disables it. Then if you want to delete it, you can go ahead and right click and delete it. You cannot delete an account unless it's been disabled. And if this was the owner of any vApps, you can then transfer ownership roles over. So if your technical contact left or needed to be changed, and you go ahead and create a new one, you can then transfer ownership roles for those vApps to that new user. And user's gone. And that pretty much covers that. So your URL if you need to give it out to a user, will be similar to this. It'll have the hostname URL for our instance of vCloud. It'll then say org, but then you'll also need to input cloud after that, and then put in the customer name. And we can definitely reference that in an email to better explain what goes on to get you external access to your instance of vCloud. You can also do email configuration settings here if you want to default emails to an SMTP server, so you can notify users when you do go ahead and create them in the system. We can do LDAP if you have an LDAP configuration to automatically link your accounts to your instance. Policies, you can play with your policies here against your vApps if you want to, say, have a runtime lease, storage lease, cleanup, storage cleanup if you want to permanently delete VMs after that lease is up. Your quotas as well. Your limits if you want to limit your operations and your virtual machines per user, as well as a password policy for logging into vCloud. Guest personalization, if you want to enable domain join for your virtual machines, you just fill out the information there. Enter in your local domain, username, password, and if you want to automatically add it to an organizational unit in Active Directory. Federation, if you want to enable federation, feel free. And metadata if you would like to fill that out as well. And that pretty much covers vCloud. So support will always be available at support@rapidscale.net or our main phone number 866-686-0328. We are available 24/7, 365. Don't hesitate to give us a call or shoot us a quick email. And we can definitely showcase our vCloud instances to you and better help train and get you more familiar with them. Thank you very much. Have a great day.